live on YouTube as well. Again, another little day of weakness out there with the S&P futures down 1%. Is that a buy on the dip? Or we got a little something else going on out there? Let's check in with a pro, Grace Glockner, National Accounts Director at Scharf Investments, also a proud graduate of Wayzata High School, which is in Plymouth, Minnesota, which is kind of suburban Minneapolis. So a shout out to our good buddies at Wayzata High School. Grace, thanks so much for joining us here. What are you doing with this market here? We got a little bit of a teeter, a little bit of a pullback. Maybe some of the tech names that were leading us are kind of not there as much. How are you viewing this market?
Yeah, we're seeing some shifting dynamics, certainly. It's broadly acknowledged that large cap tech and AI-related companies drove the strong market performance through the highs on October 29th. And certainly we've seen a reversal of this in November. But what we also saw in nearly every sector year to date was a bifurcation based on quality. We define quality companies as those with strong balance sheets, low price volatility, and good profitability. And what we saw through the end of October is low quality companies actually outperforming their counterparts with those strong balance sheets, good profitability, and low price volatility. And this trend was fairly consistent across sectors, even in tech, by the way. Mega cap tech with those healthy balance sheets has underperformed non-profitable tech by about 25 percentage points year to date. Those kind of dynamics are reminiscent of the dot-com bubble and what we saw in 2021. This tends to reverse itself as growth slows or kind of comes into question. And we have seen that reversal as the market has broadly traded down here in November.
Grace, so you've really spelled out for us what we've been seeing, and specifically with this AI rally. You're seeing so many people pouring so much money into tech, and that's really what's been propelling these indexes higher here. But where do you see opportunity outside of tech in the market?
Yeah, one area we're finding a lot of opportunity is healthcare. Until the last month and a half, healthcare has really been out of favor, trading at the most attractive relative valuations that we've seen in over 70 years. The weighting of the entire healthcare sector in the S&P 500 is about 9.5%, and just barely hanging on to that lead over NVIDIA in terms of sizing in the overall market. This is, driven by a legitimate amount of uncertainty, predominantly related to regulatory factors, which clearly the market does not like. But we feel that as these regulatory factors kind of continue to lift, the news that comes out is going to be less bad than feared.
Grace, we're pretty much through earnings for the S&P 500 here. What was your takeaway for those earnings? Were they strong enough to support this market?
Yeah, it's interesting. Technology, specifically large cap tech, has been the primary driver of posted earnings growth for the S&P 500 in the first half. And third quarter actually marks the fifth straight quarter of moderating sales growth in mega cap tech and the sixth straight quarter of moderating earnings growth. While it is still robust growth that we're seeing from technology broadly, I do think it's important to note the direction of the growth, and you're paying handsomely for that growth, with a lot of unknowns around the ultimate revenue models to monetize these AI infrastructure investments. It's challenging because the underlying economy is slowing, and so there's a fear that you can't find growth outside of tech or AI. And we did see some broadening out of earnings in the third quarter, but a lot of that was driven by financials and banks. We're focused on where can we find earnings growth outside of large cap tech. And because of the market preference that I mentioned for low quality companies that we've seen year to date, we're actually finding opportunities in high quality companies at still attractive relative valuations outside of the IT sector.
All right, Grace, we'll follow up on that in just a moment. You're staying with us. We got to get this market open for you here this morning. That's Grace Glockner, National Accounts Director at Scharf Investment. She's sticking